Hello everyone, I'm Adderly Fong. Welcome to the 2022 Sakir Bahrain Grand Prix and welcome back to the first episode of 我雷 J. So after the Bahrain Grand Prix, I felt there were two things which were pretty obvious. I thought DRS was pretty effective, and I thought traction in these 2022 cars is a little bit more difficult than the previous cars we've seen before, because coming out of turn 2, turn 3, watching the individual driver onboards, you can see that they're really delicate with throttle, and this indicates to me that traction is really an issue, especially in race trim where you're having to save the tire and not push maximum and not slide the tire too much. It's actually quite a gradual increase in throttle coming out of the corners. So yeah, I think traction is a very limiting factor in driving these cars. But anyways, we're going to talk about the overtaking incidents that we saw after the first pit stop, especially on laps 17, 18, and 19, where Max Verstappen was challenging Charles Leclerc for the lead. So breaking into turn 1 on lap 17, we see that Max and Charles both pretty much brake at between the 130 and 120 meter mark. And this allows them to both brake sufficiently and slow down the car. And they both make the apex into turn 1. So Max is able to position his car better into turn 1. So here we see that Charles has prepared for this, and that he slows his car down in turn 1 on the outside in a straight line, and this actually allows him to slow the car more effectively to then bring his minimum speed down slower on the outside, so he can rotate his car more quickly going through turn 1. This allows him to straighten out his exit, his racing line on the exit of turn 1. And so he's able to maximize his speed again coming out of turn 2, turn 3, as Max Verstappen is trying to do. But because Charles Leclerc is a little bit straighter, he is able to get on throttle slightly earlier. And because he's prepared for Max's attack, he's actually had more deployment of the MGU going onto the straight for turn 3, turn 4. So on lap 17, we see that Charles makes a comeback, but he chooses the outside line for turn 4. This is a natural at this corner because it's a medium speed corner where downforce is involved. In this case, you want to choose the outside line because you are making less steering angle, not trying to go to the apex. And ultimately, this will give you a higher speed through the corner and give you a better chance to come out ahead of the other driver. So again, with Max is within 1 second of Charles. Same scenario. They both don't lock, and it's pretty much a repeat going into turn 2, turn 3. Charles again has a better run going onto the straight out of 3. And then this time, going into the toe of Max Verstappen, he actually chooses to go for the inside line. And because Max was able to stick with him throughout the last lap, maybe choosing the inside line this time would be able to allow Charles to be able to maybe defend more strongly against Max and then pull ahead even further, further reducing the chance for Max to come back for another retaliation move. But then again, we hear the engineer of Max come onto the radio, and that he's telling him that we are suffering with brake overheat and that he should lift off. And this would indicate to me that Max would have to slow down. We see that through Max's driving, he takes the last few corners pretty well, especially turn 13, turn 14, 15, where they're relatively high-speed corners. So being able to follow is not easy, especially when you're in a lower power setting. But again, coming onto the main straight, going into lap 19, we're able to see that Max has a really good toe, added on the effect of DRS. He's again able to challenge into turn 1. But this time he doesn't jink out early. He's not side-by-side braking. And actually he brakes from a bit further back than Charles Leclerc. Initially when he hits the brakes, he's at the right brake distance. But I think because he's braking right behind Charles, he's feeling a bit of the effect of the dirty air. And this actually makes him struggle to slow down the car on the initial phase of the braking zone. So then he chooses to turn the steering wheel a little bit to the right to try to aim the car more towards the apex, so then he can brake in a straighter line and not have to turn and blend his braking, in other terms trail braking. And this ultimately unloads the front right wheel and then he has a massive lockup, which causes him to run wide going into turn 1, where then he has to overslow the car and compromises his exit going of turn 2 and turn 3. So then again, Charles is able to pull clear this time, and we then see the Ferrari pull a gap on Max Verstappen. So overall, I'm really excited about this year's Formula 1 season. I think the first Grand Prix was an excellent taste of what is to come. It's a shame about some cars with the reliability issues, but I'm sure the big teams will get over it real soon. It's nice to see the midfield runners mix it up, and some of the teams which were not so competitive last year be competitive this year. So I'm looking forward to see what happens, and I think this year it will be an even tighter race for the championship. So stay tuned, and thank you for following.